Hi everyone, we're live and this is the first day of our Liyab Learning Challenge. I am Deirdre, I'm the founder and CEO of Liyab. So to the people new in the group, Liyab is an e-learning startup focused on helping young professionals, most especially graduating students and fresh grads, transition into working life better. Kasi alam kong sobrang confusing, especially during this time. I've been getting a lot of like messages also, paano na po ngayon, may COVID, may recession, ganyan. Even without COVID, there's still a lot of confusion around. So that's why we founded Liyab. But enough about that kasi today, we're gonna start our Liyab Learning Challenge. So bakit namin naisipan na start to? Ang dami yung nakitang challenges recently because of COVID. May mga exercise challenge, diet challenge, yoga challenge, kung ano-ano. And parang that's all good. Super great that a lot of people are participating in those. Pero naisip din namin na bakit walang ganito for learning? Parang lahat self-initiated. I know there are a lot of like e-learning startups also who have offered free courses online. Recently, we were talking about yung sa Coursera. And then we were thinking, wait, gusto kong gawin to for like Filipino teachers and specifically for the Filipino audience. So kaya, sige, gawin natin to for Liyab. Hence, the Liyab Learning Challenge for the next 10 days starting today, leading up to our virtual career fair. If you guys haven't heard about that yet, my virtual career fair kami happening on May 11 to May 15. So that's every day. If you haven't registered yet, please go register so that you're informed of all the different activities we have lined up for you. So, yun lang, very short intro first to why the Liyab Learning Challenge exists and what Liyab is. But more importantly, this afternoon, this is a topic that is very close to my heart, especially having gone through different jobs, whether it's HR, whether it's marketing, whether it's even product design or strategy, and even now, sobrang important ng empathy in a lot of different functions. And I was thinking, okay, who's the best person to teach this? And definitely, first person on my mind is Joie Cruz. So, Joie is the founder and CEO of Limitless Lab. But I know her more for, because I we're friends on Facebook and we've met through the Rise conference last year in Hong Kong for startups specifically. But more importantly is I know her because like I see her posts. She's done so much work around design thinking, helping companies and organizations understand design thinking, which we discussed very briefly last week. And one key component I think of design thinking is also empathy. So she's gonna teach us more about that today, and especially with like the COVID season. If some of you guys are friends with me on Facebook, I really honor her because for the most part of this lockdown, she's been organizing so many different initiatives that use design thinking and of course practice empathy, so much empathy towards our fellow countrymen during this time. And which is why she is the absolute perfect teacher for this topic. So I didn't want to go into like her professional credentials since nandun naman sa event page and she will be discussing that. But I really wanted to take this opportunity to really honor what she's been doing and let you guys know why I personally am excited for this topic as well. So the format of today's discussion is I will be leaving you guys in a bit. Joey will be teaching the rest of her class, and then I'll be back at the end for possibly some Q&A after she gives her assignment for everyone. Yes, because this is a learning challenge, my homework kayo. And then give you some final reminders and to prepare you for tomorrow's session. But today, let's focus on Joey and how to build empathy skills. So, Joey, you can take the floor now, and I'll be back later.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deirdre. It's an honor really to be part of your platform. You know, this whole support group that you made for young professionals. And upcoming college graduates. No, so it's a really important work that you guys do. So I still remember how when Deirdre and I and the rest of our female startup founders, like when we were in Hong Kong last year, um, it was really an amazing experience to be with a community of founders who support your goals, who support the good work that you want to do for the community. And actually, naalala ko last year, we were often in the female entrepreneurs lounge where there's free champagne and meeting a lot of people. But anyway, thank you again. I'm so excited to share what I know about empathy building skills, and also excited to share why we need the skills today, especially for our upcoming graduates. No? Sige. So, thank you for the extensive introduction, Dee. No, but just to give you as well a bit of a background on who I am. So, I have a design agency called Limitless Lab. So, what we do is not just visual design. So we focus more on design strategy, making sure that whatever product, service, or campaign an organization, can be a government organization, NGO, or even a corporation, whatever new product or service or campaign they're doing, we make sure that it's really tailored to the people that we want to serve. No? Um, so our mission is to really promote design for social change. So that's what we want to do, and to foster creativity as well, not just in teams but also in individuals, because we think it's really important. So we empower people from different fields and different backgrounds to step up and unleash their creativity. No, so my first job was actually for the government. So I worked as a programs officer and marketing officer for DICT. At the time, I think I was 21, no, fresh out of college. I was so happy to work for the government because, I felt like I had a chance to give back. But also, I was disillusioned in a way to find out na marami tayong problems sa government. No? So, even if my job was great, no, so I had to leave, and then I jumped into other careers as well, no, kagaya ni Dino. So I went into NGOs, and then I also became a journalist for a time for Rappler. And that was the time I realized na it's really not my technical skills that helps me, thrive in whatever workplace or industry I am in. No? So it's really my soft skills, no, na tinatawag natin. And yun nga, there's an article, diba, that's circulating online that we shouldn't call soft skills, because that's what will make us be competitive, no, during these times, especially when we have this crisis right now, which is COVID-19. Okay. So before I delve into what is empathy, how you can build your empathic skills, let's play a game. So I don't know how many people are currently watching our webinar right now. But for those who are watching, can you comment below a GIF about your understanding of what empathy is? Sige. Ano? Sige. So I will give you guys 3 minutes to comment. So what's your understanding of empathy? What comes to your mind when you hear the word empathy? I actually opened it in my phone. I just lowered the volume para hindi ako mag-echo. Okay. Sige. Anyway, so for me, if there's a GIF that would represent my understanding of empathy, siguro it would be a GIF yung yung two cute bears na nag-hug. So I guess that for me is my representation of empathy. So for many people, di ba, we often hear the word empathy, and the first thing that comes to our mind is the simple definition that empathy is putting yourself in the shoes of the people. No? So, shoes of the people you are designing for, or siguro kahit sino na lang na you are trying to talk to. Okay? So, sige, let me backtrack to my last slide. Okay. So putting yourself in the shoes of the people you are communicating with, why is it important? Because as I have mentioned, empathy and creativity will be one of the most in-demand skills of the future. Especially now, diba, na everything is going digital. No, we're going there. Lalo na ngayon na under quarantine tayo. No? So we have no choice but to practice social distancing. Instead of going to a bar to meet your friends, or instead of being with your coworkers in one place, one office, so we're all communicating online. And I've been thinking actually for the past 4 weeks, how can we establish more genuine interactions, no? More genuine interactions, deeper conversations with our friends, with our colleagues, and making sure na we try to empathize with whatever they are going through, no? In a mental health perspective. Okay. So another deeper way to define empathy is, it is having the ability to understand, share, and be aware of feelings, thoughts, and emotions of others. Okay. So for some people, it might be intuitive, no, na parang, okay, you have a friend and you know with the slight raise of their eyebrow or with a slight increase in their tone, you know that something's going on, right? But for some people, they don't have that skill yet. Okay, but the thing is, you can actually develop that skill. And there are ways that you can do to practice empathy so that you can apply it to different settings. You can apply it in the workplace, and you can even apply it, syempre, in your personal interactions or personal relationships. Okay, so having the ability to understand, be aware of other people's feelings and emotions. No? On a deeper level, it's having the ability to see, feel, hear the world as how other people see and feel and hear the world. Okay? So empathy for me is all about connection. No? So how can you foster a connection with someone, even if, let's say, halimbawa, it's on a business related engagement. No? So empathy is still important. Let's say when you're interacting with friends, so empathy should be there, of course. So these are some of the tips on how you can improve your empathy. No? So most of these things are based on experience. So the things I've done, kasi for me, I'm very lucky because I was a journal student. No? So I was given the chance to talk to a lot of people, travel to different places, and see different cultures. No? So at your stage right now, so as a young professional, as someone who's just graduating out of college, so what can you actually do to improve your empathy? Yeah. So number one is cultivate a genuine curiosity of others. No? So I know it's common for us to always think about ourselves, diba? It's common, but having empathy is generating that genuine interest in other people. Okay? And just being curious about how they think, how they understand the world, because your reality is for sure not the same with how they see the reality of the world. No? So I'll give you a good example. Right now, so we've been seeing a lot of news, right, on how the government is responding to the COVID-19 situation, diba? In the Philippines. And there are cases when some public officials would issue some statements that doesn't seem to express empathy towards our fellow Filipino, especially those who are vulnerable or in vulnerable communities. No, so um, most of the time it's because they themselves weren't given a chance to interact with these kinds of people, with marginalized communities, for example. No? So I remember when I was a journalist, um, I was talking to even jeepney drivers. No? So I studied in UPLB, and on weekends when I didn't had anything to do, so what I would do is just travel um, around Laguna, ride jeepneys, talk to drivers, and just try to learn their stories. Now, because when you talk to people and you try to learn their stories, because humans are all about stories, and when you learn their stories, then you get a better understanding of how they see and feel and perceive the world. Okay, and when you know that we have different realities, then whatever conflict you encounter with them in the future, or if there's any scenario where, for example, you need to build a project for them, then you know that whatever uh, project you're building is in line with their understanding of the world. Okay, so generate genuine curiosity of others. So when we say authenticity, so that genuine curiosity. So paano ba natin masasabi na genuine yung curiosity mo? No? So for me, we can say that authentic yung interest mo in other people if you don't have any ulterior motive. No? So wala kang interest na, okay, sinika ko si jeepney driver kasi gusto kong magbenta sa kanya ng kung ano man. 'Di ba? So, wala kang ganon. No? So, this is the time you put away whatever motive muna in the beginning, whatever biases you have, and just try to understand. Next slide. No? So, very important. So, if you guys have heard of the word self-awareness, di ba, na tinatawag natin. So self-awareness is all about knowing your own biases as a person and challenging those beliefs that you have. So there's a successful entrepreneur that I follow. So he's the founder of Mind Valley. So Mind Valley is a personal transformation uh, company. And there's a term he made. It's called bruise. So I'm gonna say some cuss words here. So bruise actually mean bullshit rules. No? So kumbaga, when you challenge your own beliefs, you try to identify what were the bullshit rules or bruise that society has inculcated into you. No? So I'll give you an example. No? Classic example of misconception. No? So sabi nila, before daw, the Spaniards would say that Filipinos or Indios, as they call Filipinos before, they would say that Filipinos are lazy. So may nakarinig na ba nun na sabi-sabi in our history books? So they for the longest time, they thought Filipinos were lazy because farmers daw during the afternoon, palagi silang siesta. Okay? So, syempre, sabihin nila, okay, matutulog na naman yung farmer. Tamad talaga yung mga Pilipino. No? So, what they did not understand was that Filipinos, they would prefer to wake up at 4 a.m., especially the farmers. No? They would wake up at 4 a.m. to get all their work done before the afternoon. Because in the Philippines, diba, afternoon would be too hot. That's why they would allot that to sleep more for their siesta, right? So imagine before, di ba, with the lack of empathy, because of course they were raised in a country with a different climate, um, and with a different setting. No? They weren't given the chance to be more self-aware and to challenge their own beliefs. No? So to be more self-aware, so one technique that you can do is to reflect. No? So lalo na ngayon, quarantine, so you might have a lot of free time. So just take a notebook with you and then list down what do you think are things that you believe to be true. So fundamental truths that you know. So for example, I used to believe that to be successful, so I have to I can only have 2 out of 3 things. Okay? And those 3 things for me before were family and friends, love, a relationship, and then the next one is success, career. Okay, so I used to believe that I can only choose between these 2 out of 3. No, so for example, if I'm successful at love and career, that means I will have to sacrifice friends and family. Okay, because for maybe time reasons or focus. So that was my belief before. But then gradually, when I became aware that this belief is actually not helping me to achieve more of my goals, then I tried to change na, okay, this is probably a rule. What if I can actually achieve those 3 things? Okay? No? So, when interacting with other people, what are the kinds of rules naman that we can know? So, we can identify. So, for example, I don't know. I'm going into universities now. So, 'di ba sabi nila, if you're from UP daw, mamaw ka daw. If you're from UP, mayabang ka, no? So, yung mga ganong mga bagay, no? So, whenever you're trying to connect and empathize with someone, no, again, the key rule is to put away whatever preconceived notions or perceptions you have of that person. No? Set aside muna all those preconceived notions, no? Because we're humans. It's normal for us to associate, diba, and to stereotype. But having that internal police system, no, being more aware of your own biases. So for example, my personal bias as well is that some countries, for example, can be more racist than others. No? So I have that internal bias. No? But having the knowledge that I can be biased sometimes when I'm talking to this kind of person who has this specific nationality. No? So I am able to control it in a way. No? So again, take a notebook or piece of paper and try to list down what are your internal biases as a person. So do we have any questions at this point? No, we have 18 people. So we have 5 comments. I'm gonna read some of them. Oops. Tapa. Okay. Sige. So, the next tip would be to be open to being vulnerable. No? So again, to empathize is to foster connection. No? And there's no way for us to foster a connection with someone if we are not willing to be vulnerable with them. No? So, diba, when we mention the word empathy, palagi siyang kino-compare with the word sympathy. Right? So, sympathy, which translates to awa. No? So, meaning, for example, a classmate of yours goes to you and say, ay, bagsak ako sa ano, no? So he's so sad, bagsak siya sa exam or bagsak siya sa admission test or whatever. No? So when you use sympathy, no, most probably your response would be, kawawa ka naman, right? But when we're talking about empathy, maybe you would say to that person, bagsak din ako. No, joke lang. Maybe you would say to them, I understand what you're going through. And when you're trying to be more open to being vulnerable, maybe you can tell them, I was also in the same boat as you were. So I also I remember when I flunked my exam last semester, and it felt really bad. No, I had no guts to tell it to my parents. So be open to being vulnerable, because vulnerability is not about weakness. No, it's not about showing your weakness. No? So being vulnerable is giving yourself permission to relate to other people. No? Because sa communications, may tinatawag tayo na common field of experience. So when you share your common field of experience with someone, it gives you more chance to empathize and to connect with them. Diba? Parang relationship lang, di ba? So when you have similar experiences, similar problems, um, so aside from opening yourself up to vulnerabilities, like sharing of your previous experiences, the next tip would be to travel more if you can. So very, very important. I remember during our trip, diba, last year, so I think many of us spent our own monies to go to Hong Kong for that conference, because when you travel, as I've mentioned, you get to meet a lot of people, different cultures, different races, and it gives you a glimpse of how they see the world, because definitely they see the world differently. And when you understand that, it gives you more edge in the workplace as well, because today, we're transitioning to multinational teams, 'di ba? Na iba-iba talaga yung nationalities in a team member, especially in a remote setting. No? So people from other nationalities might have different work styles. No? So having the knowledge of how they usually work, so you can get that through traveling, through talking to a lot of people, gives you the edge, and also gives you more chance to connect with your future coworkers. Okay. So very important as well is to be open to feedback. Now, so for Filipinos, 'di ba, we are a very indirect um, um, nationality, no? So we don't like giving or receiving feedback. So for some reason, it's uncomfortable for Filipinos to directly say their feedback someone. No? Pero now with social media, so more people are being more confident because they're hidden behind the screen. No? But there's a lot of value in being open to feedback and constructive criticism. Because when you're open to feedback, you're also exposing yourself to vulnerability, right? And also, it shows, di ba, na you are open for growth. Okay? And not, hindi naman lahat, di ba, ay open talaga for growth. No? So when your manager, for example, if your future manager will know that, okay, this new employee is open for feedback, he or she is not being very defensive, then most probably he or she will like you more and will trust you more as well. And of course, for your own benefit, this knowledge, diba, on what you can improve on yourself can help you as well grow in the future. Okay. Lastly, pinaka-importante is listen to understand, okay? Not to respond. No, so listening, it's a very important gift that we can give to people. It's a very important skill as well. But oftentimes, di ba, um, we listen to respond because uh, we want to look nice. Right? That I have a smart respond to something. No, so when you're trying to empathize, again, the goal is not to prove na magaling ka. The goal is not to prove na you are better than this person. So the goal is to understand. And when you listen and you try to understand, for example, if a friend is sharing his or her problems, maybe sometimes you don't even have to say a reply, right? So, pwedeng nakikinig ka, may sinabi siya, no, just the fact that you are there listening, you don't even have to respond. Okay? So, that in itself can help you improve your empathy skills. Okay. And again, very important yung curiosity. No? So I myself believe na lahat naman tayo, we are born with the gift of curiosity. Diba? As children, no, I remember when I was a child, I would ask a lot of questions as we all do. And my mom would always tell me, our relatives as well would always tell me, you know what, when you grow up, you should be a reporter. Kasi ang dami-dami mong tanong. Right? No? So, curiosity, asking the right questions. No? So later as well, I will teach you, no, so what are the bad questions and what are the good questions that you can ask when you are trying to empathize with someone. Okay. So at this point, can I ask our participants, no, so are there any questions that you have for me? I'm still getting used to the whole webinar thing because most of the time in our workshops, diba, like there's a people in front of you and they could just ask questions. Do you have questions ba? What do you think about, okay, wala pa, CB pala yun. 7 comments. Si Thea. Okay, so Thea pala had a comment before. Can I see? Nice. So we have pala a few comments. Sayang I wasn't able to view them earlier. Okay. Anyway, so now you might be asking, no, so how exactly can I use empathy in the workplace? No, so when I get a new job, or maybe I want to start my own company, I want to start my own startup, no, right after college, be an entrepreneur, or maybe during this time, no, wala kang ginagawa, no, maybe you want to start a campaign, or like a campaign from your home, or a simple social action, no, that you can do habang lahat tayo ay na-quarantine. Okay? Sige. So now we're going into design thinking. No? So again, empathy, no, a basic life skill, but also empathy is an important business skill that you need. Okay? Empathy can help you advance your career. No? So I actually feel like empathy should be considered a basic qualification in the future, no, for many companies, no. So enter design thinking. So design thinking is a way to solve problems using empathy, creativity, experimentation, and collaboration, no? So take note, hindi lang empathy ang design thinking, so meron din siyang aspect ng creativity, experimentation, and collaboration. These are the things, as I've mentioned, that you need, no, to have a competitive edge, in the workplace in the future, or to succeed in whatever professional venture or career venture that you want to go to in the future. Okay, so the bulk of our work is on design thinking. No? So again, human centeredness and empathy and creativity. So design thinking actually has 5 steps. Okay? So, kung makikita nyo, number 1 lang yung empathy, but it's the most important one. Okay? And then, comes after would be define, ideate, prototype, and test. So for this session, ang diniscuss lang natin is empathy, but I will also give you guys an idea. No? So what are the existing systems that you can use to codify, kumbaga, no? The things you gathered through your empathy exercises. Okay, so meaning codify, how can you put it into a document, no, that you can refer to? For example, if you're creating a project, or for example, if your boss told you, okay, I want you to design this new product. I want you to design this new strategy or marketing campaign for our company. So let's go into that. Okay? So paano ba tayo makaka-empathize on a more systematic level? No? Not just on casual interactions, but yung talagang, bawa, sinabihan ka talaga ng boss mo. So I want to understand. No? So, anong pinagdadaanan ngayon, halimbawa, ng mga tricycle drivers? Okay? So how can you go about with it? No? So what is a systematic way that you can use to empathize? Okay, so what are the ways on how to understand and empathize? So pinakamadali, no, number one would be interviews. Okay? So for students who are watching right now, more or less you are used to interviews, di ba? Sobrang sanay tayo dyan, no? Okay, this might be my own bias as well, no? So many tech students naman, no, but correct me if I'm wrong, guys, this might be my own bias. So many tech students, medyo hindi sila sanay dito, no? So interviewing and talking to a lot of people. So this is also something that you want to cultivate early on. Okay? So second one is observation. Also very important. Observation, meaning you don't just listen to what they say to you. You don't just listen to the answers they give you when you interview them. Why? No, because number one, Filipinos, 'di ba? When you ask them something, sabi ko nga, 'di ba? Filipinos are very indirect. No, uh, we don't want to offend someone. So sometimes maybe they tell you something, but they do otherwise. So for example, if I'm working on a project on segregation, let's say hindi pa COVID-19, let's say it's a normal day, no, we go to the community and we talk to the mothers and ask them, okay, so nagsisegregate po ba kayo ng basura nyo? So what do you think will be their answer? Siyempre, ang answer nila is, nagsisegregate kami ng basura namin, di ba? No, but aside from asking them questions, no, the best way to understand them and to empathize, not just to listen to them, but maybe, go to their actual basurahan and check, okay, nagsisegregate ba talaga sila? No? So, in our current situation, let's say you're building a project for in related to COVID-19, you can do observation via social media listening. Okay, so we do this a lot. So we're currently building a mobile application for tricycle drivers, to help them earn additional income during this time. So there's a group formed. It's called Super Chuper. And the founders of the group, so what they did was tricycle drivers can ask for donations through GCash. No? So they just need to post their story, their photos, photos of their IDs. No? So we try to observe, what's the current trend, right now. No? So since we can't go out, so we just resorted to social media listening. No? So that's also one thing you can do right now. Syempre, if you have more time and if you have more resources, the best talaga would be through immersion. If you have social sciences students in the group, No? So you know how important immersions and ethnographic researches are, because when you try to live with them, then you can really understand, where they are coming from. Okay, so what are some more tips when trying to empathize, no, more purposively? Syempre, ask open-ended questions. Later, we'll have an exercise on the difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions. Number two, observe people in their homes. And as I've mentioned, so observe things that people will not tell you but are doing. Okay, so there are so many things that people don't realize they are actually doing. So as someone who wants to really empathize and understand, these are the things to watch out for. Okay, so interviewing tips. Okay? So, sige, let's go with the example of you and your college mates or classmates trying to come up, halimbawa, a solution for a major problem ngayon with SAP, 'di ba? Yung social amelioration program. No? So, sobrang daming mga reklamo kaming natatanggap. So, let's say, halimbawa, gusto nyo lang ng project. Magawa kayo ng community project nyo online because, syempre, wala nga tayong means ngayon to go out and to interview. No? So, let's say you found a group, a Facebook group, and there are people there who are complaining so much about SAP. And you want to understand better first, what is their situation, current situation, where they're coming from, what are their problems. So you want to interview them. Most probably, you will be able to do it via, I don't know, phone call. No, pwedeng phone call, pwede rin naman na chat. Okay? So, again, go for open-ended questions. But first, ano muna yung close-ended questions? So close-ended questions, simply put, are yes or no questions or things that don't really steer a conversation. No? So, um, it's just useful for confirming known information. No? So answerable by yes or no. Okay? So again, when we're trying to empathize, we want to go for stories, right? Because stories, that's where you find a lot of insights. That's where you really get insights on how people live their lives and how they understand the world around them. No? So open-ended question starts with how, no? Why, what, okay? And pwede mo rin silang pakwentuhin. So for example, tell me about the last time na nagpunta ka sa barangay hall at tinanong mo si kapitan kung available na yung social amelioration fund. No? So, and then listen to their stories. No? So more or less, if the question makes them very emotionally charged, and yun yung gusto mo kasi you want to understand, di ba, ano talaga yung problema. Kung chat yan, ang haba na nasasabihin niya. Di ba? Magkikwento na sila. Actually, ganyan yung nakikita namin ngayon. No? Ang daming mga nag-chat, nagre-report, even the tricycle drivers, complaining about what's happening, like sharing how wala na silang mapanggata sa baby nila, wala na silang mapakain sa pamilya nila. No? So, open-ended questions are useful for learning behaviors, needs, challenges, and aspirations. No? So, para kang reporter na hindi naman necessarily ang gusto mo ay mag-report sa TV, pero ang goal mo is to create a project or create a solution using your knowledge from your empathy exercise with your stakeholders. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going into bad questions versus good questions. No? So, bad questions, so these are leading in priming questions. So, for example, you like it, right? Okay, that must have been painful. No? So, halimbawa, kausap mo yung colleague mo, no? And nag-share siya ng frustration about let's say napagalitan siya ng boss mo, no? So instead of saying, ay grabe, nakakalungkot naman yan, no? So instead of saying like that, no, maybe just try to ask them, so how do you feel? No, don't assume that they are feeling a certain way. No, so because again, the goal is to understand. So avoid leading and priming questions, especially questions that propose generalization. So for example, aren't millennials usually, let's say, lazy? So aren't millennials usually lazy? No, so that's a very leading question. So you don't want that. Oops. Sige, so now we will have a simple exercise. No, I don't know if our live viewers can comment. No, but you can say good question or bad question. So for the first one, do you think it's a good idea? Is it a good or a bad question? Okay, so that's actually a bad question. Okay, instead of asking them if it's a good idea, no, so a better way to ask them using how be, how would you describe this idea, no? So that's a better way to ask that question. Would you buy a product which did X? Is it a good or bad question? No. For me, it's actually leading, no? So better if maybe um, don't ask this question altogether. No, so would you buy a product which did X? Okay, next, how much would you pay for? That's a better question that than would you buy a product which did X. So instead of asking them number two, you can ask how much would you pay for it. Then you can gauge. For example, if you're selling a product or you're creating a startup, diba? Would they be willing to pay for this product? What would your dream product do? So good question. Next question. Very nice question. So why do you care? Okay, so this is a nice question to ask people. So why do you care? Okay. What are the implications of that? Okay. Talk me through the last time that happened. Good question as well. Because at this point, more or less, magkikwento na sila. Okay. Talk me step by step through your workflow or your experience. This is also a nice question, especially if you're trying to solve, let's say, a problem in a process or a service in the workplace. No, so, for example, meron kayong proseso sa office or even your project na mabagal, 'di ba? So, you can ask them step by step ano yung pinagdaanan nila na experience. Then you can identify ano yung mga naging problema. Next, what else have you tried? Also good question. So how are you dealing with the problem right now? So we asked this with the people we're talking to, the tricycle drivers, and the vulnerable community. So how are you dealing with this problem right now? So yung iba sa kanila, ang sabi nila, may mga nangutang sa 5-6 pero alam naman natin na sobrang laki ng interest doon. My cleaning lady, for example, no, so I chat with her regularly. So I ask her, so how are you dealing with this problem right now? Ang sabi niya sa akin ay um, naglalaba siya dun sa isa nilang kapitbahay. So, who else should I talk to? That's also a good question. Could you tell me more about that? Okay. That's a follow-up question. So that's very good as well. So, is there anything else I should have asked? Also a very good question. No. Alam nyo, minsan iniisip ko, being a design thinker, an innovator, and exercising empathy, if you think about it, it it's just like going to who you are when you are a kid. Diba? Because when we were children, we're so curious and we want to learn about so many things. We don't have any preconceived notions. We don't have any judgments and biases. And what's our favorite question to ask? why? Diba? We always ask, why? 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 Bakit? 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 Until our parents got annoyed. So curiosity. So curiosity and asking the right questions. So maybe at this point, using empathy and design thinking to solve problems still feel a bit abstract for you. So I'm gonna play this video to illustrate it further. When I first moved to Cambodia, I lived in a rural village, and it took a little bit of time before people got used to this sort of foreigner wandering around. Initially, I was here to search for a remedy to a problem, anemia, caused by a lack of iron in the blood. It causes dizziness and weakness. It breeds complacency and lethargy. Kids can't concentrate in school. It also causes premature births and problems during pregnancy for women. Nearly 2 out of 3 children are anemic. But this piece of metal has the power to stop it all. My challenge was to find a way to supplement the typical Cambodian diet of fish and rice. I knew that iron pills and other iron treatments weren't really affordable by many people in the villages. In my search, I found that cooking in a cast iron pot can release iron into the food, and that iron is then absorbed in the diet. But I realized that most Cambodian women use aluminum pots because they're cheaper and lighter. And then I got to thinking, what if I could get them to put this chunk of iron in their pot? It would be a simple, cheap, and accessible treatment that even the remote villagers could use. But my simple solution had one big problem. I found that the women were hesitant to add this sort of ugly piece of iron into their pots. I found that the iron blocks came in very useful, but just not in the pots. And so I realized I had to dig a little bit deeper. I searched for everything. I looked at sayings and beliefs. I looked at rituals, anything that would give me a better understanding of Cambodian culture. And then I landed this, a symbol of good luck. I think I was a little bit shocked when I found out how positive the findings were. In the test areas, anemia has pretty much disappeared altogether, which is absolutely astounding. It was far exceeded what we had expected. We're hoping that this little fish holds the key to treating anemia across the region and beyond. It's definitely one lucky fish. That's the story of the lucky ironfish, no? So the same way, diba, sometimes when we are faced in a problem, let's say a professional problem, pwede ring personal, pero focusing more on professional problem, we often jump straight to the solution, right? But using empathy, no, so can help us have more chances of success. So parang siya, nag-jump straight to the solution siya. No, so he figured, this iron block is actually the same as the iron supplement. So he tested it. No, but it turns out people are not willing to use it because why would you put an iron block on your food, right? No, so what he did, so he went back to step number 1. No, he went back to the drawing board, and when he tried to empathize more, no, he discovered that for Cambodians, actually, fish is a symbol of luck. And a simple iteration in the solution that he was building, made a lot of impact. So that's an example of application of empathy and design thinking. So talking about codifying, let's say halimbawa, nakapag-interview ka na. So how can you take note of all the insights, all the things you gathered from your interviews? So enter the customer persona. Okay, so the customer persona is a very, very important tool and easy to use tool as well that you can use to document the things you gather during your empathy exercise and interviews. So kumbaga, this is just like creating a profile. No? So it can be fictional, it can be a uh, true to life person as well. And mind you guys, no, so this is not rocket science, it's not something new. This is used by many organizations, from big corporations like Google, IBM. They use this to identify na sino ba talaga yung mga tao that we are trying to help, trying to serve, or maybe trying to build a product for. So the parts of the customer persona, of course, you have the demographics, the name, age, work status, and location. So this square spot, in the left side is usually a spot where we draw a sketch, or we can also take a photo to represent that specific person. The goals and aspirations, ano ba yung goal nila sa buhay? No? Or ano ba yung goal nila in related to the problem you are trying to solve? No? So I would put it again in the context of COVID-19. Let's say with the tricycle drivers. Actually, yung goal lang nila ngayon ay makaraos. So ang goal lang nila is to provide for their families in the time being habang naka-quarantine tayong lahat. Okay? Frustration nila. Frustration nila is hindi pa dumadating yung SAP. Frustration nila is pumila sila ng ang haba-haba. Sabi, ngayon daw yung distribution, pero hindi pa rin nakarating yung social amelioration fund sa kanila. Behavior. Okay? So, you can put here, okay, active ba sila sa social media? Free data lang ba yung gamit nila? Ano yung other means na ginagamit nila to survive? What are their motivations, values, and beliefs? Okay? Sources of information. Saan sila kumukuha ng information? Are they more of a TV person? Doon pa rin sila kumukuha ng info sa dyaryo? Or mas internet na ba? Especially millennials, halimbawa, internet na ba sila kumukuha ng information? So I'll give you guys an example. So this is a customer persona we made. No? We were trying to design a website, no? And also helping our client redesign their courses. So this is a technical vocational school. No? So we also taught their employees how to make customer persona to make sure whatever decisions they will make, no? May it's, let's say, gagawa sila ng bagong course, gagawa sila ng social media card, social media poster, no? So this can help them make sure, okay, in line ba to sa needs niya? In line ba to sa goals niya? Okay? Because again, how well you know your customers or stakeholders, how well you know them, how well you empathize with them is equal to your chances of actually helping them solve their problems. Okay? So this is Marvin, the senior high graduate. So nilagay namin yung goals and aspirations niya, syempre to help his or her family, his family. So yung frustrations niya, wala sila gaanong money, resources. Ano yung behavior niya? Nagdodota siya palagi. Motivations, values, and beliefs. So Marvin here is a fictional character. So what we did was we interviewed around 10 to 15 people and gathering what are similar characteristics, what are similar frustrations and goals. From all those trends and patterns, we created Marvin, the senior high graduate. So now, the good thing here is when you have this persona, you can print it, you can put it on your office or your home office on your wall, and this will be your true north. No? And let's say if there are 100,000 people who share the same problems as Marvin, the senior high graduate, so that means you have the potential to help 100,000 people. Or to convert them, syempre, in a business sense, to convert 100,000 people as customers. Okay? So here's another example. This is actually inspired by my dad, who is a seaman. So Jonathan, the OFW. So ano yung mga challenges and mga frustrations nila. Okay, sige. So my assignment for you now, no, so I hope you guys learn from this session. So that's basically a gist of how you can improve your empathy skills, how you can codify it. My assignment for you now is in the group, if you can find at least two more people who can be your teammates, then I want you guys to think of a project idea that you can do during this time. Now, we still have exactly 14 days, di ba? So we still have 14 days before the lifting of the community quarantine, and talk to your possible group mates. So what kind of project do you guys want to do? But syempre, number one thing to consider, who are the people you want to help? Okay, when you've decided who are the people you want to help, then I want you guys to fill out a customer persona. Syempre, that means kailangan nakapag-interview na kayo ng some people who match the profile or characteristics of the people who you want to help using your project. No? So I will be sharing our template. No? So for those who are interested to be part of this challenge, no? So let's call it an empathy challenge. So a challenge inside a challenge. So who want to co-create a project with the group that maybe you guys can create, diba? Impact even in the comfort of your own homes. I think I went beyond my time. It's 6:01. Yan, sige. Siguro yung last tip ko na lang sa inyo guys, no. So the great thing about empathy and design thinking is that hindi mo lang siya magagamit sa workplace talaga. No? You can use it to improve your relationships. You can use it to design your career and design your life. No? So there's actually a book called Designing Your Life. So this book is for any age, but if you are still someone who's trying to figure out what career you want to push for. Kasi ako, comms graduate ako. And I remember after college, I didn't know, like, would I go into advertising? Would I go into NGO? Would I go into media? No, so I didn't know. So this book, Designing Your Life, teaches you how you can create prototype lives na tinatawag. No? So I remember one good strategy that was mentioned here, no, using empathy, is called the forgot the name. No, but basically the idea is, instead of you spending 3 years studying, let's say, a particular course to be, let's say, a doctor, no? And then figuring out after you studied medicine na hindi pala yun yung gusto mo. Okay? So, why not empathize with doctors first? Maybe schedule a coffee with a friend, no, a family friend who's a doctor, and then try to understand what's a day like in the life of a doctor. Okay, what's a day like in the life of an Instagram influencer? That's your dream. I don't know, diba? No, so that's also another way you can use empathy for professional and personal purpose naman. No? So if you guys want a copy of this book, I actually have a PDF copy of it. So just let me know, and then I can email it to you. No? So that's it on building empathy skills. So if you have any questions, so I will be free to take questions. I think there was a question earlier. So there was a question. The question was, what if your coworkers is sharing to you and expecting an advice in return? No, so how do you set boundaries professionally? Okay, so I've been in this boat. No, so when there's a coworker, of course, we want to maintain like good relationships with our coworkers, but who's also overstepping naman, di ba? Parang hindi ka na makapagtrabaho. Parang ginawa ka ng emotional punching bag. Di ba? So, yes, it's possible to empathize, but also to set strong boundaries, strong emotional boundaries. No? So, actually, for people who have strong empathy skills, and who also are not yet aware of how to set their boundaries, it can be emotionally and draining. It can drain your energy. And I've been there when I was young. So when I was growing up I read all these books on how to set your boundaries. I learned na parang a way to set boundaries with people who are draining your energy, trying to, kumbaga, exploit naman your empathy skills, is sometimes to set a distance muna. So that's what I usually do. And also, 'di ba, feedback. So why not tell them directly? So I'm also a big fan of radical candor. Also letting people know that, okay, so I understand this is a difficult situation for you. I understand how, this is also affecting your professional life. But as much as I want to be there for you, so I also have to take care of my own mental health. So sometimes it's just a matter of being direct, and um, being direct and saying things in a nice way that won't make them feel offended. Okay. So I hope I answered your question. So do we have any other questions?
Okay, so we have another question, Joey. Sorry, I'll be facilitating it na lang para you don't have to read it on your phone, right? The second question is, how do you convey to a potential employer that you have empathy in your resume and in your interview?
Hmm, that's a good question. Hmm, right. So in your resume, so I've actually seen some students of mine from iAcademy. So actually they put there na parang um ability to empathize, no? So I think it's okay. It's generally a well-known skill right now. So empathy skills, putting it in your resume would be okay, I think. When it comes to the interview, no, so you can tell them actually through anecdotes. No? So there are employers who might ask you, no, so tell me about a problem you encountered and how you solved it. So then that is the time you can tell them, no, so maybe, I talked to a lot of people, blah, 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 blah. And then this is how I came up with this solution. Okay. So maybe you have inputs as well.
I know. I think that's a very good way to do it. In one of our workshops, kasi in our job hunting crash course, I think one of the best ways to exhibit empathy is to know your audience. And
Yeah.
for your resume, your audience is your HR. So actually, good if you can like explicitly say it, maybe in your resume. But the best way to exhibit it is to actually use it in how you construct the resume. So, syempre, if you have empathy towards the recruiter, then you're not the only resume na sa screen nila. So you want to make it easy to read. You want to make it straight to the point, right? So maraming ways to show that without explicitly saying, the word empathy
Yeah.
in your resume and in your interview. And then same then with the interviews. It's like really showing na where the other person is coming from. But I think what you said perfectly answers that. Especially when you encounter behavioral questions like that, like tell me about the time when. That is the best time to show through the method that through the framework that you use for answering that. For example, what were the actions you took? Then you're able to say actions that exhibit empathy.
Right. That's a good point.
And I
So,
think
okay, sorry. Go ahead. So that's a good
I
point. So even the fact na how you laid out your resume, so you can't, siguro tinuro na naman ni Dee, so you can't have just one resume for all the companies you're applying for. So you have to tailor fit it to every application.
Yeah. So far we don't have any more questions, but if you any of you have questions at all, now is your chance to comment it, because I wanted to go back to something that Joey said when she recommended the book Designing Your Life. For those who attended our Monday session, you guys would know that that is precisely everything we talked about that day. But for the new ones in watching this video who have no idea what designing your life is like, prototyping, that sort of thing, the video is still in the group if you want to check it out. If you, for example, want to go straight to the exercises, I talked about that a lot in the video from last Monday. So do check it out. But I love that, like, a design thinker is able to recommend the book as well. That means it's legit, guys. Um, but thank you so much, Joey. Maybe if you guys also have questions, maybe about the homework that she's assigning. So after this video, what we'll do is we'll be posting her template on the group. So maybe perhaps Joey will be able to comment that, the link to that in the video, in the comments of this video, so you can check it out. Or maybe Joey, if you want, you can also make a separate post for it with your instructions, to repeat your instructions again,
Okay.
um, so that people can tag each other in the actual post with who they want to group with. And also, we got a question about whether we're gonna give certificates for attending the sessions in the series. And my answer to that is we will only give certificates to those who do the assignments. Because I think like giving a certificate sort of means that you have actually been able to absorb what you attended. Because I feel like, we don't want to be some sort of certificate factory where you just attend sessions, like watch it for an hour on the side and then not like try it out for yourself. Then there's no real sort of test of whether you've really absorbed what you learned. So we're gonna give certificates to those who submit the assignment on the group, and then we'll just message you for your details, and then we'll be sending you the certificate itself. So for those who want to collect certificates, best if you participate in the assignments and homework that we give, so we know that we're giving the certificates to people who really absorbed what the teachers taught for the session. So,
Awesome.
before we wrap things up, Joey, do you have anything more to say? Some final words for our audience tonight?
Um, well, I guess, my final words would be like, these are challenging times, for all of us. And I'm sure you guys, like, you might be graduating and you feel uncertain of what's about to happen, like, I just want to say that a big part of being a design thinker and an innovator as well, practicing empathy as well, is seeing opportunities behind challenges. No? So I want you guys to also challenge yourself during this time. No? So what are the new skills that you can learn? And maybe what baby projects can you give birth to? So hopefully through this experiment, like, so yon, see, try to also exercise the skill and having the ability to see opportunities behind challenges. Okay, so that's it. Yeah.
I think those are very good words to remember. Um, Not just when you're doing the exercise, but also actually in general when you're out there interacting with people. It doesn't have to be just because you work with them, you have to be nice to them. I think you just have to practice empathy with everyone you interact with
Yeah, exactly.
in life. All right. So thank you so much, Joey. We'll be waiting for your post on the group with the homework and instructions. Um, and finally, a reminder from me is that because we want to keep improving, of course, these sessions, we have a feedback form. I will also post the link on the group. I'll put it in the comment section of the video, but I will also create another post just for the feedback form that you can fill up. Let us know if this is a topic that you want to go deeper on. If you want to hear more from Joey, maybe in future sessions, please let us know through the feedback form so that we can improve our later sessions and, of course, get ideas for more sessions like this within our Liyab Career Support Group. And again, this is happening every day until May 10 at 5 p.m. So tomorrow, which I think is a good way to segue from empathy, is we are going to learn from Vincent Cho how to build and take care of your own professional network. And I think a lot of that comes from being a genuine person with the people that you make relationships with, and for you to continue nurturing those, you do have to practice empathy. So I think that's a very good follow-up topic from day one. So tune in again tomorrow 5 p.m. for day 2 of Liyab Learning Challenge, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.